How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Giancarlo Esposito, welcome to the after show.
Wow, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
I am really digging the quarantine. Is that the COVID beard?
Yeah, this is the COVID non-working beard. Whenever I'm not in front of the camera, I just grow it all. Yeah, it's the COVID beard. Yeah.
I like it. It's a good look. It's a good look.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Before we get started, I'm just such a nerd. I have to show you. I pulled this out of my office. It's going to mirror backwards, but
oh yeah, cool.
I have a Los Pollos Hermanos box. I don't know if you've tried. You can actually order Los Pollos Hermanos out in LA, and it's really good. I like my fring fries.
Love it, love it, love it. Those curly fries are good.
They were a good choice. They were a good choice by Gus to include on the menu.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad you can get that fresh to your door, especially now.
I know. I mean, it's been such a lifesaver. Have you actually tried it? Have you tried?
I tried it at our upfronts.
Oh, you did?
Out in California, I had a little taste. I'm a vegetarian, but I could not resist my own product. You know.
That was scary. It was chills, man. So let's talk about this finale. You just watched it, yeah?
I sure did.
Okay, thoughts? How fun is it also to be able to watch this with your family?
You know, it's an enjoyable show. I think the finale really encompasses the best parts of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul coming together. We're getting closer and closer to that nefarious zone that Gus lives in every day. Jimmy is moving into that zone. And for me, the tension and the edginess of the show is certainly starting to manifest itself in a different way. And that's equally so in Jimmy, Saul Goodman, and Kim's relationship.
Yeah.
You know, they're also at a point of a very tense juncture in time. Is she going to stay with him? Is she going to really believe his lies and move through that thrilling part of a relationship with him? And I'm seeing such great performances in this particular episode by so many of our illustrious cast members, but especially so in regard to Kim Wexler. You have to wonder, why is she with this guy? She has to get some thrill from this. So this episode, you know, really brings together the climactic feeling that we're moving into the world of Breaking Bad more than we have been living in the world of Saul Goodman and Jimmy McGill. But the thread and the writing of this is so stellar. It's very exciting. I'm thrilled by Tony Dalton. You know, Tony Dalton's acting is just so very at ease and so very comfortable in his own skin, yet threatening as well. He gets to be loose and fun. It's so nice to see Stephen Bauer back as Donnie Ladio. He's also very chilling and very frightening without being a caricature, renders such a real and true performance in this. And certainly Jonathan Banks is a stalwart in this. I love what he does. His delivery is so on target, and he is so demonstrative in doing nothing. He's just like, I'm not going to tell you. That's not for you to know. And I love imitating him because it's like, well, get out of here. I have family coming. I mean, it's just wonderful parts of his performance that really, I love working with him as a scene partner in general. But this particular episode is so filmic and so wonderful. Of course, directed by Peter Gould, who is one of our creators, and did such a wonderful job in making these mini films every week. I feel blessed to be a part of this.
Absolutely. And it's funny, you know, I talked to Tony earlier today, and he had the best description of the Salamanca house. He called it Downton Abbey Hacienda, which I thought was so, like, just hit it right on the head.
Right on the head.
I love that. But we didn't see much of Gus in this episode, of course, but he's crucial in setting in motion the explosive instances later on. How do you think he's going to take it that Nacho couldn't follow through, and that Lalo is still alive?
I think Gus is going to be very upset about that and very incensed. I don't believe he'll blame it on Nacho, but I do believe this is setting us up for a very explosive season 6. Gus is very calculating and prepares for success as well as failure. So I believe when we open our season 6, we might be surprised as an audience. I don't know what the writers have written, but I know for me, I think Gus always has an alternate plan B. If this doesn't work, what happens? He's thought this through, and of course expected to have this happen, but also has the expectation that they could miss, and that Lalo Salamanca could, in fact, escape his grasp in this instance. So I like the fact that Lalo gets away because there's an opportunity for me to slay. Eventually.
I can't wait to see what he has planned, because as we have seen with this show and with Breaking Bad, nothing is as it seems. They are thinking 5-10 steps ahead of us, the writers, and I mean that must be such a joy to play.
It really is. You know, I love that the writers are so astute. They pay quite a bit of attention to what we do as actors in our previous episodes. And then they do something that I think is so terribly important for me as an actor. They become inspired. So they really play into your strong suits, and they really can see maybe some of your weaknesses. And then they can determine what they want to play to and how they want to write. And I know all of our actors are so versatile, but it gives them the opportunity to go, oh, he just did something that I didn't really expect. And I'd like him to do a little more of that. And you can see it reflected in stage direction and writing of future scripts if you are so on your game that you allow them to know through your performance that you're inspired as much as they are. And then the game is on, which is pretty terrific.
In playing this part of Gus's story, what has surprised you the most about his backstory?
Well, you know, we're not given a backstory. And for me, I always fill that in and create it. And so for me, Gus's backstory lies in Chile. And it lies in him being privileged and walking away from privilege. And I think he also had a big part to do with the military in Chile. So he has that military bearing in many ways and a battlefield way of thinking. And so he's very successful in the world of Breaking Bad and in the world of Better Call Saul because his thinking is tactical. Yet he's very polite, and yet he knows inside he can run this business better than anyone else. And he can't say that, but he has to prove it and show it. And because he's not a Salamanca, which you really get this sense in 5'10", Nacho's not, you know, when you get back up north, you may be halfway to being a Salamanca, Tony says, which I just love. It's so racist within a race. It's so demeaning. And it's so about that class structure, or that are you family or are you not? And see, Gus is not family. And so this is something that he's always struggled in a way to belong to this particular cartel. They can't deny him because he makes so much money for them. He's so smart. But they joke about him. Even at the party there at the Hacienda, Danielarios, they say the chicken man. You know, they look down on him. And so, you know, Gus in season 6, I pray and hope that our writers will allow the audience to see not just that he get his comeuppance from vengeance through violence, but that he is striving more to be understood as a businessman. Eladio says something else to Varga. Oh, you're a businessman. Makes fun of him. How are you going to take down these white biker gangs? You're going to cause a war. Everyone's afraid to do something or make a misstep that'll create too much attention on the cartel. Gus thinks further than that and plays people and organizations against each other. So I'm hoping we'll have an opportunity for Gus to actually subtly and gracefully prove and show how powerful he is. So I don't believe that any of the Salamanca cartel knows about Gus's affiliation to Madrigal, to the foreigners, to the big money, to the big corporate stuff. These guys are playing on a small playing field. Gus is playing on a playing field way above them and wants to elevate the game. And so I can't wait to see what may happen.
That factor, that maybe not so subtle racism is not something that I guess I've considered it, but it's colorism in a lot of ways.
That's a better way to put it. It's colorism. And it's classism, and so, part of the fun of the game, if we go back to 507 and to Dedicado a Max, this episode where he has a whole conversation with Jonathan Banks outside of the dedicated area of the township that Gus has created for good. There's a good part of this man. There's a part of this man that does respect and revere human dignity. There's a part of this man, as you've seen from his history, that educates people and gives them their dream if they will, in change, give Gus what he wants. So he's not just a taker. And that's what makes Gus very, very different. But when you go back to that episode of Dedicado a Max, you start to see a different side of Gus that's very, very interesting. And he says something to, Jonathan Banks is such a wonderful actor. And he says, you're just like them. I'm going to be your button man. I'm going to be your button man for the cartel. Huh. And, you're just like them. And he says, no, I'm not. He refuses that he is in the same class with the Salamancas. And so this should come out. This kind of thinking should come out, that this exists with a lot of different classes and races of people. When people say, we hear this a lot in regard to our country right now. We hear that I know more, and it's said with different words. I already told you, or you don't understand. What you don't understand, right? So that's already taking a position where I know more than you, and so that is an interesting aspect to how we mature and how jaded we become.
Great point. And in speaking to Gus's humanity, I think there was this really subtle moment, and I brought up Los Pollos Hermanos box because, not just because I'm a fan, but also because that episode where Nacho and Gus set fire to the store, and you see this moment where Gus, he looks saddened by it. He looks, I don't know, there's a forlornness right before it happens. What was going through his mind in that moment?
Well, it's sort of like we don't want to waste. Gus is not about wasting. And for him, a little bit of the failure is to have to waste that organization, waste that business in order to allow his plan to thrive. He has to do that because he has to be in on fooling Lalo Salamanca and not giving away his inside man in Nacho Varga. So there's a pain in burning down the house you built, and that's what we see. It's just that, wow, this is he's a very business-minded human being, but he also cares not only about the product but about the community, about his businesses. He cares a great deal. So it's the pain of losing a child and having to kill that child himself in order to have the bigger plan or the long game really work for him. Gus is an interesting guy. He's not just in it for greed, for money, for power. He's in it for other reasons as well. Of course, he has a vengeful problem, he has to get, his position with the Salamancas is just so ungodly and awful, but there is, Max, who was taken away from him. So revenge is a part of the chink in the armor that is the downfall, but he is a businessman. So every time you have a success in real estate and you build your business, and it's another feather in your cap for many. For Gus, it's the idea that he was able to leave Chile. He had everything he needed. He probably could have been president. It was all going to be handed to him, but he would have been the puppet of someone else. And so Gus, with Los Pollos Hermanos, with the laundromat, with his giving to the community, hiding in plain sight, which is something that I absolutely love, that he gives to the fun run. He takes care of kids in the hospital, really is not just a cover. It is also that he does care. It's as if he could be selling toothpaste. And he makes the best brand of toothpaste that will ensure you'll never, ever get a cavity. He's got gold here, and he wants to share it with you.
What does a Gustavo Fring toothpaste commercial sound like?
Well, fluoride is really good for you, even though they tell you it's not. We have something very, very natural in our fluoride because we make it down south across the border. It's made with the kind of clay that is good for your mouth. So listen to me. We have the best toothpaste. It is Los Pollos Hermanos. It tastes like my chicken, and it is the best.
Sold. Done.
Okay.
Can I order it from Amazon, buy it in bulk? I can't go to the store right now. So
Available in 7 days from now. We bring
Love
it
it.
to your door. You don't have to open your screen. It'll be right on your doorstep.
Contactless delivery.
There we are.
Thought of everything. Thought of everything. We obviously know how Gus's story ends. Do you ever find yourself, as you've been on Better Call Saul, kind of catching yourself being like, I don't know that about him yet. I don't know that this is how it's going to end. I don't know letting Tio go is going to end up this way.
You know, I'm an actor, and oftentimes actors were very self-absorbed. And so in my mind, you know, Gus is Machiavelli. You know, I mean, he's not dead. He may have fallen in front of your eyes, and you may have seen that. But I'm going to tell you, he's alive. No, I don't. I think because I'm thinking backwards, which is a very interesting thing to do, and I'm not trying to be the Gus that you know. It's a very strange opportunity I've had with this, and it was part of the conversation I had with Vince before agreeing to doing Better Call Saul. Had no idea I'd ever come back as Gus. Thought I was finished. Washed him out of my hair. It was done. And then, of course, Saul came and people started talking. You know, it's possible. And I didn't even think about it. But then in the conversation with Vince, having to go backward allowed me to think, oh, we could get to know all these things about Gus. Well, Better Call Saul is about Saul. It's about Saul Goodman, Jimmy McGill. And so I realized initially in speaking to Vince, okay, then we have to do what we've done. And that's to have the ability to have the audience want more and not know so much about Gus. Know a little bit more. Know what his journey is up until the point of Breaking Bad. So I had to work backwards. And so it was a big issue too, not a big issue, but it was a conversation about how I would look. And I really knew right away that my hair would be longer, that I would comb it back. I already knew the mile markers in my attitude. I wanted my attitude to be a little more vulnerable at certain points, a little more hothead at certain points. Gus, you've never seen him get really angry or really, really irritated. He always suppresses all those feelings, channels it somewhere else. As you saw in, I think, episode 3, where the young man kept coming back and he didn't clean the chicken fryer right. Well, Gus was irritated about something else. But he channeled all that anger through a teaching lesson because he really does care about his employees and he really does want it done right. You know, he's not just running. You know, it's the difference between, and it's what I always wanted with this character in my conversations with Vince. I wanted a character who wasn't going to be stereotypical. So it's a difference between somebody just running a place to launder money and not caring about anything else. It's very different than that for Gus. Gus really has a way of working and respects that. And he wants people to learn how to respect that as well and how to do the small jobs, you know, the big jobs in a small way. Like it's like what we're having now with our whole idea of not being able to be socially present with each other personally. So we call it social distancing. Well, in my book, I'm starting to think it's physical distancing, but it's socially connecting. Because we're feeling now at this point in time in our lives, more than ever, we're feeling more emotion, more feeling. We're feeling either more anger or more happiness. Some people are really happy to be at home and do their work and be quiet and not have to go to work. Other people are really in torment that they can't be out. But no matter what's happening, we have the ability to be connecting. Like we're connecting right now. So why are we calling it social distancing? We're not really distancing at all. We're physically distancing, but socially connecting. And so for Gustavo, going backwards, I wanted to have a little more vulnerability and have the qualities of someone who hasn't quite reached that place where he knows he's going to take everything over. He has the idea. He's not quite sure it could work, but he has confidence. And he acts as if. So that in the end, when Better Call Saul is completely finished, and we have the bookends of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, you will really see how I've tried to be, I don't try to be younger, I try to be a little less as smart, a little less, tiny bit less educated, someone who's still finding his way. And if that works, you'll see those pieces and those bookends come together beautifully.
next season will be Better Call Saul's last season, and I don't want to, we don't know, but potentially the last time you are going to be Gus Fring. What are you going to be missing the most about him?
I will miss his patience and his, he's patient with a boil, and I'll miss the idea and the feeling and the express experience of suppressing some of my feelings. I'll miss being calm, because when I go to play Gus, I don't have the kind of energy I have now. I have to breathe. I have to drop into a place where I can completely put my attention on you. And that changes me, because that allows space. I'm waiting to look into your eyes and to try to not only hear what you're saying verbally, but to see what you're saying physically in your eyes, in your action. Gus is very measured, but he's takes his time, really checks things out, really hears people. So I'll miss that kind of centered character. And that takes space. Oftentimes, I'm a little bit more gregarious and a little more nervous. I'm Italian. I gesticulate and I'm excitable and I have a temper and all that stuff. And that all gets suppressed when I play Gus. I take all that away. I'm a little cooler. I'm a little more on a vibratory level. And I like that. I'll miss his bearing. I've always built into Gus his physical bearing, because I feel like you can't act without your body. And with each character I play, I find my body, I find how to be in my body. And Gus is in his body in a very, very regal, graceful, military way. And so it's that respect that I went to military school, so I brought that into my life, and I almost went to the military. So that, to me, is essential in how we present ourselves. I'll miss how Gus dresses, a lot of which has had to do with me. He's a good dresser, and he's in a way slightly formal but respectful, and he looks for that in other people. So those are some of the things I will definitely miss about playing Gus. And I can't even believe it's been 10 years since the Breaking Bad, and I've been in and out of this character for 10 years. I would have never imagined that at all. And I don't know if I would have been able to pull this off with anyone else but Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould and and Melissa Bernstein, one of our producers, Thomas Schnauz, this great team of creative writers, because they've allowed me to feel comfortable and feel like family. And then, of course, I've mentioned all of our wonderful actors. I mean, Bob Odenkirk, to me, is a stellar, incredible actor. We have a show here in Better Call Saul that really is a show that has comedy, it has drama, and it also has action. And each one is given such a very fine point of view and exists seamlessly and fluidly with the other. And so this is what you see in film and in movies. It most resembles real life. And we have that. And that's due to our incredible team of writers who are so very sensitive to these stories and have really had the ability to allow the stories to live in this incredible environment of the Southwest. I don't know if you've ever seen anything like it, because also our environment is a player in our piece.
Oh, it's
as well.
Absolutely a character.
And it's not big.
It's absolutely
New York.
yeah.
It's not
it's a
big
character.
New York City. It's a character,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a character that lives and breathes and has a very different attitude than any place else you've ever seen.
A lot of chilies is what I keep hearing. I'll have to check that out at some point.
You really will.
Yeah.
And I suggest doing the red and green half and half.
Okay.
Chili. I got some restaurant recommendations.
Oh, you'll have to text them to me later. I'm a big food person, but I always keep hearing about the New Mexico chilies. So I feel like one day when this is all over, I'll go and check them out for sure.
Yeah, you must. There's a great feeling here.
Going from, it's so interesting that in this universe, you are not, purposely, you were all not given a lot of backstory. And then in something like, I don't know, Star Wars and The Mandalorian, it's all about the backstory. It is all about the history and the richness of it. So Moff Gideon, I have to ask, will we see more of that in season 2?
You will. I'm so very excited to be part of the Star Wars galaxy and world, and really honored that Jon Favreau invited me to be a part of that. Moff Gideon, yes, you will see more of him, and you will fear him and maybe be intrigued by what he's trying to pull off. He entered into our series in an ancient TIE fighter, which we hadn't seen in a long time in the Star Wars stories. He is a Moff, so I have to go to fans and to David Filoni, who is the Star Wars guru, who works so very well with Favreau, but he has been with Lucasfilm for a long time, and to ask him the history, and I sit down with him and I'm there for 2 hours because I want to know more, because I don't know enough. I was an early Star Wars fan, sort of dropped out for a while and had to catch up again. And so, but the good thing about being an actor, I got to tell you honestly, I said it before, you can act as if. I fill in the blanks for myself if I don't know them, and then I get caught up when I can, because my brain has to be full. And I feel like, there's all these questions. And that's what I'm given. Even from our director, he asked me questions. Well, why do you think Moff Gideon knows everything? Why do you think this? Why do you think that? And I go away with a full head and figure it out. I sit down and I start writing. Well, he knows this because of this. He knows this because of this. He has the most incredible intel of anyone. And what is he trying to do? Well, I don't know. You're the writer. You should tell me. But yet I've figured out what I think he's trying to do so that I can have a full head. So when you see me, that there is an intention behind my want. There is an idea. And so Moff is very different than Gus Fring. He wields his own darksaber. He does his own dirty work and is certainly willing to. He's much more volatile. He's much more of the warrior. And that could tell us some things about him next season. Where is he really from? I've been asked all these questions. Is he a former Mando? Is he this? Mm-hmm. Is he that? And so all of these interesting things will want to come out. I love this show. It is the ultimate space Western, and you haven't seen anything like it. I mean, our Star Wars movies are wonderful, but the initial premise of Star Wars was a space Western, and it was based around the mythology, a lot of it, because George Lucas was so enamored with and had a friendship with Joe Campbell. And it's the hero's journey. So Joe Campbell wrote a book called The Hero's Journey, and he was all about mysticism and the mythology of our world. And this is why I love Star Wars and this particular Mandalorian installment, because it allows us to then tap into the spiritual again. And I think that's where we are in our time. Look, we're all home. What do? I guess a lot of folks who maybe don't pray or meditate maybe have started that kind of practice. For me, that practice has gotten stronger because I've had more time and more quiet to devote to it. But the inner unit, and you're talking about Star Wars now, and I'm talking about Joe Campbell, that's my inner world. Mm-hmm. That inner universe is where you find all the peace that you could ever want. It's where you connect with all the beings you could ever connect with. And it's where the inner voice tells you what's happening. And it's small stuff that you and I think is coincidence. So I sent a pair of glasses off to New York, right? And I knew they had gotten them a few weeks ago, and a couple of days ago, my assistant called me and said, they're still working on your glasses in the lab. So this morning I got up and did my meditation, and all of a sudden I saw a little guy in the lab, literally, saw the guy in the lab working on my glasses. And I was like, that's the weirdest vision I've ever had. I wasn't even in meditation. I'd come out of meditation. But it was telling me my glasses will be here soon. You know what I mean? And I know within 2 days they're going to be at my front door. It's the weirdest thing. And so it's fascinating because we think we need our phones to reach out to our loved ones or to even have an inkling of how they're doing. But if we really tap into the depth and breadth with which we've been given, the breath, that space in between the words, there's a universe there. Then we can really get with our intuition. Yeah. And our intuition is the real deal. It's the real deal. That's the voice that tells you everything. We just never really kind of believe it. We think we're a little crazy. Anyway,
no, I love
Mandalorian
that.
because it taps into that feeling and that level of consciousness.
And him wielding that dark lightsaber, did you have any idea that it would cause the kind of fan ruckus that it did, because we haven't seen that in a live action version in the Star Wars universe before.
I think the last time you may have seen it, and I'm not an expert, so I could get this wrong, was Samuel L. Jackson had it, I believe. I think he wielded it in the film. We've never seen it. We haven't seen it in a long time. I had no idea. I'm gonna be really honest with you, man. People freaked out, and I look. I don't want to give away season 2. So how do I say it in a way that's interesting? I use it a bit. Okay. I use it a bit, and I respect it. And there are a few of them, and each are used in a different way due to the fact that they normally you have one that you can wield, but if they have to touch it up in CGI or all this other stuff, you be careful. Well, I have to say, I hope I don't get busted, but maybe they won't mind. I've gone through, I think you've gone through 2, 3, 3.5. I think I've broken already.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but I go at it. I go at it. I've
so
got it going.
it's a physical thing that this is not CGI that you are carrying.
No. I mean, I've broken a few of them to the point where the property guys, they love me, but they go, man, you go all in. So they go, just so you know, they whisper to me, we only have one more.
I love that. Before I let you go, you've been so generous with your time tonight. I got to ask you, what are you binging right now as we self-isolate, if anything?
I have been binging Saul because, of course, I wanted to be right on time and know what's been going on with the show. So I watch it again to really look at some of the wonderful performances. I also am about to start binging. I've binged Peaky Blinders, okay? This show to me is just so powerful. The language, the setting, the space, the place has just blown me away. And I'm European, so I love what they've done with that particular show. It's pretty fantastic. And then binging Casa de Papel. Money Heist, man. Get on it. Money Heist is a very, very interesting piece. I love seeing things from other countries to see how they hand make their television shows.
Yeah.
And of course, I have a very high standard because of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Mandalorian, doing Godfather of Harlem, another show I do that's on Epix. And so Casa de Papel is really fun, but also has an element of edge and wonder about it. So I really, really dig that. So I've been binging that as well.
Love it. And last question is, what are you looking forward to the most once this is all over?
I'm looking forward to hugging people again. I'm a hugger. I'm a physical guy. I like to share my heart. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting to the gym and swimming. I've got a couple of my children with me. I said, look, I got to get to the Rio Grande. They were like, what? I said, I got to get to the Rio Grande. Why, Papa? Well, because we drove over that bridge the other day, and there were people in the Rio Grande swimming. I want to swim. And then I look forward to being back on set. I certainly miss working. I've had an opportunity to do a lot of digital work from home, which has been fantastic. I'm also a voice recorder, so I like that. But mostly, I want to get back around people and the people who so courageously have helped us on the front lines, who've given their lives and courage, and are the nurses and doctors and the essential workers, the police. I just have great gratitude for them because they, we may think, they must be grateful because they still have a job. But those who are going to survive this, they're also putting their lives on the line to be in service. And to me, being in service is ultimately all that any of us has, is to share our love in our hearts. And so that's why the first thing I said was, I just want to be able to hug people again, as opposed to having to stand 6 feet away, just to share my love and my light.
Giancarlo Esposito, I'm giving you a virtual hug. Here you go. It's my virtual hug to you right now.
Thank you.
This was such a delight. Thank you so much for chatting about the finale and about Mandalorian and about Gus. This was so cool. I'll be looking out for that Gus Fring toothpaste coming very
indeed.
soon.
I'm going to get that in the works right away. Blessings to you and your audience and all you folks who are hanging out watching this. You honor both me and all of the cast and filmmakers who really love that you have the ability to be able to see what we do. Because for me, I love what I do, and I don't work a day in my life.
I love that attitude. Thank you so much, and have a good night, and stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. You as well. Bye.
Thank you.